Right.
Some of them. Yeah. Some doctors have to have a hand-on experience, so that doesn't work.
Am I doing something?
You may have to read something.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I'll make it bigger.
So we'll suggest as we begin the service, maybe for people to put themselves to be muted. And as I mentioned to you, it's really difficult, these responsive readings. If you want to read them, and we encourage you to, you just have to be muted so you're reading at home. As I said, the computer, my mistake last week was thinking we could all do it together. Well, live and learn. And what happened is that doesn't work. We only really get one speaker at a time, okay? So it is 6:04:54, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6:05. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and welcome to our Zoom service. It's so good to see all of your faces. We are going to begin this evening with Shalom Aleichem, and that is found on page 42.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharit, Malachei Hasharit, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Elohim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh, Baruch. Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tafnuni Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitkam l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And we welcome Shabbat now with the kindling of the Sabbath lights. And Glenda, you can turn your sound on, and we are on page 20 of the virtual prayer book, 120 in the actual prayer book.
Did you shut the doors?
No. Am I supposed to read this?
Yes, read that.
As the Shabbos candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvosav v'zivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של
We continue now in the virtual prayer book, Shir Chadash 362.
Continue now on page 35 at the bottom of the Hebrew with Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtavu le'ar kodsho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtavu le'ar kodsho. Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. And we're going to continue now on page 38 as we welcome the Sabbath bride with Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kala Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat lechudela im kor habracha v'rosh mikadam nesua tofa b'machshava tchila lechadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela Itoreri, Itoreri, Iva orech kumiori, Uri, Uri, Shir Daviri, Kavod Adonai Alai Niga, Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, Lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ha'teret bala, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Now with the Kaddish, which is page 44. Yitkadash me'apa Belma divarach hirutei v'yamlit malchutei B'chayeichon u'v'yomeichon u'v'chayeitecho beit Yisrael Bagala, bagala u'v'zman kariv Ve'imru amen Yehei shemei Rabba mevorach Le'alam u'lam me'amaya Yitbarach Yitbarach ve'yishtabach Ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh Ve'yithadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal Shemei dechudsha berichu Le'ela min kol birchata ve'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Da'amiran belma Ve'imeru amen.
Let's rise now for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship.
La For the next prayer, Mariva Ravim, I'm going to share my screen. I have a version of this prayer tonight called God of Creation, which has some English I'm going to share with you. Here it comes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariv haravim b'chokmatei yakshavim God of creation, who makes the evening fall from light into darkness with the setting of the sun. You unfold the heavens with brilliant moon and stars, wrap our souls with peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariv haravim b'chokhmah potayach sharim. God of creation, who makes the evening fall from light into darkness with the setting of the sun. You unfold the heavens with brilliant moon and stars and wrap our souls with peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariv haravim b'chokhmah potayach sharim. Baruch atah Adonai
We are on page 52 as we continue standing for the Shema.
Alan Wagner looks old, but Bella looks pretty good.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
And you may be seated as we continue with the Via Hafta, page 54 in the virtual prayer book.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברתם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Let us read now on page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
I'm putting up our next song, Hashkivenu, so we can all join in the English parts as well together. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukkah shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukkah shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us daily wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. Amen. Amen.
I'm reading now on page 61. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haparei sukat shalom aleinu, v'kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim.
V'shamru, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael, et HaShabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, שבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בית עולם. ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ינפש וביום השביעי שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל השבת את השבת לעשות את השבת לתורתם בריונם.
Let us rise now for the tefillah, page 64, virtual in our prayer books.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotinu v'imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Yah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chasdot Ve'imachot U'mevii Geula Livnei V'neihem Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai Mechayei hakol atarav lehoshia Mechalkel chayim bechesed Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim Somech noflim verofei cholim Umatir hasurim Umkayem emunato Lishenei afar Micha mocha ba'al gevurot Umidol melech Melech memit umchaya Umatzmiach Yeshua Ve'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechayei hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh U'kdoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. We continue now on page 72, Eloheinu Ritzeh.
Eloheinu v'Elohei avot v'imoteinu Ritzei, Ritzei, nu chatainu Kadesheinu b'mitzvotecha V'tinchalkeinu b'toratecha Sabeinu mituvecha V'samecheinu b'shuatecha V'taher libeinu V'taher libeinu V'taher libeinu Le'ovdecha b'emet V'taher libeinu V'taher libeinu V'taher libeinu Le'ovdecha b'emet Yalai, yalalai, 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 yalalai Yalai, yalalai, 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 yalalai Yalalai, V'taher libeinu V'taher libeinu V'taher libeinu Le'ovdecha b'emet V'hanchileinu Adonai Eloheinu ועבר רצון שבת קודשך, וינוחו בישראל מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Page 74 of the virtual prayer book. Find favor, Adonai, our God, with your people Israel, and accept their prayer in love. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable. God, who is near to all who call, turn lovingly to your servants. Pour out your spirit upon us. Let our eyes behold your loving return to Zion. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence returns to Zion. Baruch atah Adonai, hamachazir shechinato leTzion. We continue now on page 77. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lahodot.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki Hatahu Melech Adon L'chol HaShalom. Ki Hatahu Melech Adon L'chol HaShalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. B'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. Make contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. At this time in our service, we ask for God's healing on all those who are ill, all those taking care of the sick, all those grieving loss. We ask also for healing in our nation, for our nation, and all the nations of the world. The cantor will share a slide with us with our healing prayer.
This may be a new Mishabera for some. This is a version we've been using in my Gift of Awareness class, or mindfulness class. And it is actually the original prayer for healing from the Torah, from the book of Numbers, when Moses cried out for healing for his sister Miriam, using the words El na Rafan na la. It's very simple, and I think you will catch on very quickly. The first part only has one note, so you can just continue to chant this chant for the whole time on this one. El na Rafana la, 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 El na Rafana la. And Moses cried, heal Miriam, this I pray. And Moses cried, heal Miriam, this I pray. El na Rafana la, 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 El na Rafana la. And Moses cried, heal Miriam, this I pray. And Moses cried, heal Miriam, this I pray.
Let us take a moment now for silent prayer.
Shalom Aleinu Ve'akol Yisrael Ve'imru Amen.
I am going to share my screen and share as well this evening a responsa on COVID-19 vaccines. Of course, all of us know that the vaccinations that many of us are receiving, are going to receive, were authorized by an emergency authorization. And we are told that the vaccine is very safe, and statistics seem to show that that is the case at this particular point. Obviously, we don't know how well the current vaccine will be in dealing with the variants that are now emerging, specifically the UK and of course the South African variants of this virus that we're confronting as a world society. But it is better than nothing, and it seems that it is indeed effective, certainly in making sure that those of us who are medically compromised, either with medical conditions or medically compromised because of age, are not going to have a severe form of COVID-19 should we be afflicted with that illness. So what does our tradition tell us? Are we required to have a vaccine, even though the vaccine hasn't gone through all the trials that we would expect ordinarily a vaccine to go through? And Judaism has several questions with regard to this. I'm only going to deal with the first two that you see highlighted in green and blue. And is it an obligation for us? In other words, does religious law mandate that we get a vaccine? Certainly we have a choice. I mean, Judaism would say that we have a choice in many issues, but it will be very interesting for you to see the conclusion with regard to vaccines. Judaism cannot mandate what we really do in our personal lives, but it makes a cogent argument, Judaism that is, about ensuring the safety of the community. And the second question that I think is very interesting, can Jewish institutions require vaccination for employees, students, and congregants? That's a very interesting question. Now, this particular responsa comes from the conservative movement. So last time we were together on Zoom, I shared a responsa from the Reform movement. Tonight I'm sharing from the conservative movement, from the Rabbinic Assembly. Well, so what does Judaism mandate? And of course, we always begin responsas with teachings from our tradition. Torah commands us to be careful and watch yourselves. And obviously you need a guardrail around your roof. That's a mandate in the Torah that requires us to put a parapet on our roof to make sure that nobody inadvertently falls off. But there really are other mandates as well. We have pikuach nefesh, the need to preserve life. And we know that religious precepts can be violated to preserve life, whether it's dietary or ritual precepts, such as observing the Shabbat. It's certainly permissible to pick up the phone on Shabbat and call 911 if you're a traditional Jew who observes the requirements of rest. But we also know that the Talmud, and these are not treated here, the Talmud also tells us that we as Jews should not live in a geographical area where there are not doctors. So Judaism recognizes that we should not only not put others at risk, we should not put ourselves at risk. As Moses Isserles, who was the German rabbi who codified the Shulchan Aruch, really Joseph Caro wrote it, but he codified it for Ashkenazic use. He says one should avoid all things that endanger oneself, as we treat physical dangers more stringently than ritual prohibitions. And of course, here we have the classic, do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. So, obviously, all of the mitigating efforts, masks, washing hands, social distancing, all of those would certainly be required by our tradition. The spirit of Judaism is this: if we, through those really harmless obligations, it doesn't hurt us to be 6 feet apart. It doesn't hurt us to wear a mask. It doesn't hurt us to wash our hands. By observing those, if we can help preserve life, if our efforts will guarantee that someone near us does not get COVID-19, that truly is a mitzvah, and such behavior is mandated. The paragraph here now is rather interesting. It's a little tangential, but there's an argument here. And I highlighted the most important part. Failure to immunize children against vaccine-preventable disease is a serious compound violation of Jewish law. There is no basis in halacha to support a parent's request for a religious exemption from state-mandated immunizations. And this is interesting because in Judaism, a Sunday school or a Hebrew school, remember in the old days when we used to meet together in our classes, Sunday schools and Hebrew schools could mandate that children have vaccines and could also say to a child and to the parents, as long as you are not vaccinated, you are not welcome here. So that is very important, the preservation of communal health. Rabbi Dorff writes in his book, Matters of Life and Death, we have a strong sense of community. We know that. Judaism is hopelessly communal. So we know that. We have an obligation to each other and to the welfare of humanity. Jewish tradition would have us use communal measures to preserve our lives and health as much as possible. Now, an interesting caveat is introduced here. He says, for a Jew to be inoculated against a disease, at least where the inoculation has a proven track record of effectiveness. So someone might say, well, listen, this is only emergency use. It has not gone through the trials of other vaccines. Well, we know, obviously, that there are risks in any vaccine that all of us have taken in our lives. And we know that there are risks with the COVID-19 risk. And so Judaism, no differently than our government, evaluates the risk to an individual with the overall benefit to the individual and to society. And of course, here we have, interestingly enough, the FDA has said that for a vaccine to be approved under EUA, emergency use authorization, it must show at least a 50% reduction in coronavirus infection and have a strong track record through at least a median of 2 months of follow-up time. All right. So this is not the first time, by the way, that this issue has come up in Jewish life. Think about this in Europe with smallpox that was really killing 400,000 people a year. And there were vaccines back then, and rabbis wrote responsa about the need to have these vaccines because the benefit outweighed the risk. So here we have it. The rabbis say, we must weigh the real risk of contracting COVID-19 with the presumed risks of a vaccine approved under an emergency process. And another rabbi says, Here, smallpox is so widespread, so contagious that everyone should be considered at risk, and therefore the benefit of the vaccine, even one that is new and without a long track record, as Jenner's vaccine was at the time, outweighs the risk. Why? Because of the greater societal benefit. Now, we are hearing about deaths from the COVID-19 vaccine. We don't know if it's a direct result or if they simply happened coincidentally. It's because many people are old already, have underlying medical conditions, comorbidities. But I did a little bit of research. I'm not sure if you've heard of this. On this screen, a small number of people developed this rare blood disorder after getting a COVID vaccine. Here's what to know. Well, what is this called here? And several people have died. We'll look at the math in just a second. Right here, thrombocytopenia, all right? This is a disorder of the blood where the platelets are attacked by the immune system. Am I getting that right, doctors? Okay, so the platelets are being attacked by the immune system, and of course, that is not a good situation. I did some research as well and found out that approximately 36 people in the United States right now have died theoretically from COVID-19 vaccines, right? Theoretically, because again, we don't know whether they had comorbidities that, or they died naturally, or in fact, the vaccine was responsible. How many people have had the vaccine at this point? Probably 45 to 50 million people right now is the number. So that's where we are. We're at about 45 million. So do the math. Let's assume 45 people pass away from this. What is that? 1,000th of 1%. Most of us take greater risks going into the hospital for minor, what we would call minor procedures. So the drug that we're taking, the vaccine that we are taking, let me pull up the Word document again, I think passes, based on those numbers, a principle that we have in Judaism called refuah b'duka, an established treatment. The numbers at this point seem to bear that out. We don't know how effective it will be, but we will watch the graph. And as we have been vaccinating the older population, we will see what happens with the numbers in COVID. How many people get COVID? Of those people, how many require hospitalization? So those will be the numbers to watch. Where are the number of deaths? Someone told me today, and it was just by conversation, that there were no COVID deaths today in Lucas County. Anybody else hear that? Okay, I heard it. I don't know if it's true, and I haven't verified it. But if that's the case, that is very good news. That is very good news. So, what about the vaccine? Rather interesting. The Orthodox Union and the Rabbinical Council of America, this is the Orthodox rabbinic groups, have also ruled that it is a requirement to be vaccinated for COVID-19. So, Judaism would say to you, it's really not a recommendation. It is a requirement. Why? Because you will benefit from it most likely. Let's hope no one's a statistic. You will most likely benefit from it, and society will benefit from all of us having the vaccination. And the more people that have the vaccination, I think the better chance we have of reducing the number of variants. Well, the problem, as you see, will be in the third section, which we're not discussing tonight. What about distribution? What do you do in a nation? Who gets the vaccine first? We've seen these ethical dilemmas. Which nation will be able to vaccinate first? Well, obviously the wealthier nations will. So how do we achieve some kind of equity? How do we stop people from jumping the line as well? Because when somebody jumps the line and uses a limited medical resource, what happens? Somebody who is more vulnerable is denied that particular resource. So in conclusion, they rule that any Jewish institution can require a vaccine against COVID-19 for its participants, employees, students, or congregants. So imagine that. As we perhaps open up the world, what will happen is you'll go to the TSA, right? And you'll present your passport. And then what's going to happen? Yeah, you're going to say, here's my card. I have the Moderna vaccine, which I just got yesterday. And my arm really hurts. Oh, okay, but that's besides the point. It's a small price to pay. A small price to pay for the really privilege of protecting ourselves and of helping society in general. So this is where Judaism is. A couple final points. We must take preventative measures. Masks, hands washed, physical distancing. It's true. We always used to walk around and say, I wouldn't touch him with a 6-foot pole. Now this is national policy and it's mandated by halakha, all right? Jewish law obliges Jews to vaccinate themselves and others in their care with medical guidance, with vaccines that have a proven and safe track record. COVID-19 vaccines approved by the government health agencies under emergency authorization are considered to be established treatments. With proper medical guidance, we are obligated to be vaccinated against COVID-19, and Jewish institutions are permitted by halakha to require their employees, students, and congregants to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Obviously, you better consult your lawyer. Okay, so that is a brief look. I'll stop the share here. That is a brief look at our tradition vis-a-vis COVID-19 vaccines. So I hope that all of you are doing well and that all of you are in line to get your vaccines. A couple announcements. Purim is coming up, and we are having a congregational celebration on the 21st of February. That's a Sunday at 10:30 in the morning, and you can do it all from the comfort of your home. So it will be on Zoom, and I hope that you will take a look at the emails. We have a wonderful program of Purim baskets that we're doing this particular year, and Purim goodie bags and all sorts of opportunities for Purim. So we hope for that 1 hour on Sunday morning, you'll join us for a wonderful creative Purim spiel that will be done by our congregation, but on Zoom, and also listening to the Megillah reading. So once again, Shabbat Shalom to all of you, and we will continue now with our concluding prayers. The Aleinu is found in our virtual prayer book on page 300. If you have the actual prayer book, page 586, both at the bottom. Will you please rise?
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם בגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך Shemo Echad.
You may be seated. And I will be continuing now with a reading before the Kaddish. There are stars up above so far away, we only see their light long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. At this sacred moment of our Shabbat worship, we think longingly and lovingly of Stephen Fink and Charles Pyle Jr., both taken from us during recent days and weeks. We name two at this time, those whose yahrzeits, the anniversary of whose passing occurs, as on this Shabbat we recall Irene Binzer, Anna Brodsky, Dr. Isidore R. Cohn, Carl M. Cohn, Sidney Dreyfus, Arthur H. Edelstein, Ben Fain, Arthur P. Feinberg, Myrna Jane Feldstein, Robert Fox, Matthew Ginsberg, MD, Beryl L. Goldman, Robert A. Gold, Ben B. Green, Ted Helberg, Ann Jacobs, Robert Jones, Herman Katz, Charlotte M. Klein, Beth Davis Lefko, Benjamin Levy, Marcia Lieber, Neil Light, Michael J. Phillips, Henry Rappaport, Stanley M. Romanoff, Benjamin Rubin, Elaine Sugarman, Patricia Shulak, Jerome Shore, Robert A. Silverman, Isidore Silverman, Jesse Siskin, Lynn Stark, James Wagner, Harold H. Wasserstrom, and Rose B. Zanville. Let us rise now as we sanctify the name of God with the words of the Kaddish in our virtual prayer book, page 312, in the actual prayer book, page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'elmad divrach yiratei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Shemei Rabbah mivarach, lama lamei almaya, yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekud sha bari'u. Ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran mi'alma v'imru, amen. Shalom Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, give comfort to all who are bereaved, here and everywhere, as together we say, amen.
Our closing song today is going to be Adonai Oz, a blessing for all of us and all of you. You can find it in your virtual prayer book on page 356. Adonai Oz le'amoite, Adonai Oz le'amoite, Adonai Oz le'amoite, Adonai Oslem Moitim. Adonai Oslem Moitim. Adonai Oslem Moitim. Adonai Yevarech et Amo.
And we conclude this evening by inviting all of you to join us in the Kiddush, which is found on page 23 of the virtual prayer book.
Let's join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit kibuyom techilah emikra kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim kivanu v'charta tanu idasha mikol hamim v'shabbat kodsha be'ava uvraton hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Clink. That's so rad. The plate. We'll join together in Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Nice seeing
Shabbat
you.
shalom.
Nice to see everybody.
Shalom, everybody. Have a good weekend, a good week.